Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's a very special Joe and Joe Weather Show. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight is always brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, your superstore for everything you need to make sure you get through this winter in one piece, because the forecasters are not going to be able to get through the next 3 days in one piece. Uh, they've got salt, sand, Pelledo, calcium, de-icer, mag ice pellets and flakes, everything you need to make sure that everything is cleaned up and that your home is safe. If you need a new snowblower, they got those. You need a new spreader, shovels. It's all there at Omni. And of course, rock salt and the lowest prices anywhere in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and even beyond. Folks come from all over to Omni. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon in southwest Suffolk County, right north of the Sunrise Highway and south of the LIE. The telephone number is 631-756-1125. And the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
Yes. So we have a very special.
Joe, let me add. Joe,
Yes.
let me add one thing to that. You talk about a lot of shoveling and spreading. I have a feeling that the forecasters are going to be doing a lot of that over the next couple of days.
I think it depends, but we'll discuss that momentarily. And not in the way the folks on the chat board, not in the way you might think. I'm going a different road with this. Anyhow, our special guest tonight, we have up in the 4 box and right on top of above me is retired News 12 chief meteorologist Bill Korbel, who now spends most of his time running his champagne company. And of course,
yes, I hope you enjoy it.
It is. It's absolutely delicious. And and on the other side, above Joe Rayo, who has apparently his own hair and Bill's, we have Bill Goodman, National Weather Service in Upton. And if you don't know where Upton is, it's in Brookhaven Labs. And if you don't know where Brookhaven Labs is, it's on Long Island in central Suffolk County. And they cover the New York City, basically New York City, Northeast New Jersey, southern Connecticut, the Hudson Valley, and Long Island as the forecast zone. So very, very thrilled to have both of you together. I don't know, is this the first time, Joe, we've done a 4-box?
I think so.
It might be.
I think we yeah. So
how
there
do we
you
keep
go.
them talking over each other?
We
Just
don't.
Wondering how we do.
We don't.
We don't. We just
talk.
interrupt each other.
I remember when National Weather Service moved from the city when they had their offices. Remember in Rockport Center?
Yes, I remember.
Out to Brookhaven, and they finally discovered that the coldest part of the area was in West Hampton Beach.
Yes, they sure did. And those Long Island forecasts improved by 1,000% after they moved out. So
that's funny.
We are. I want to give a big welcome to the folks that are watching from Tri-State Weather. They're going to be watching our show tonight, and hopefully they'll participate on the chat board. Please participate in the conversation. Joe Rayo will be monitoring the chat board tonight. Any questions that you have for Bill or Bill, this is going to be tough. It's Bill and Joe and Joe. I guess the only thing that would be harder if it was Joe and Joe and Joe and Joe, but no matter. Put the question.
Like George Foreman naming all his sons George.
Yes,
that's right.
So put your questions on the chat board and your comments. We'll try and monitor them. And if you are new to the YouTube channel, welcome. We love it if you hit the like button if you like the show. And of course, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel by just very simply using your Gmail account. This way, you don't miss a Joe and Joe weather show, because we're on at least 5 days a week, and sometimes we're on even more than that. So, anyway,
we have a super chat. We have a super chat hit from Richard Melichar.
Oh, very good. Hi, Richard.
With, but...
thank you very much. I know who Richard is. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for hitting the tip jar. Okay, so let's discuss the shenanigans of what is going on today, because usually, I mean, and I'll put it up to. We'll start with Bill Korbel. I'll start with you, and then Bill Goodman. You chime in after that on this question. So, I'm thinking usually as we get closer to an event, things seem to just kind of, come into focus. You sort of know where things are going to go. There's leeway in one way or the other, but things should usually start to get a little bit less, let's say, less crazy. And what's happened is exactly the opposite, especially with some of the shenanigans that the models have been doing today. Some of the, I personally, I can't remember model volatility, if you want to, if I want to just, you want to describe it that way. I can't remember model volatility like this, is particularly with what the NAM model did today. When you go from a foot and a half of snow on one run, and then you go to, not only do you go to nothing, just like pick up, wherever your geographic point is, and you suddenly go from 18 inches to 0, but then you look at a map and you look at Boston, the whole area, nothing. It's gone. Not a flake, not an ice pellet, not even a charity raindrop. I don't remember. I don't ever remember something like that so late in the game.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's happened, but you know what? Maybe we should go back to the olden days where we had one computer model. What was the LFM? Was it?
That was the LFM.
Bring back the LFM.
Bring back the LFM. Here's the problem. I call it paralysis by analysis. There is so much information available out there, so many variations of computer models that your head starts spinning. So I try to look for the one that's most consistent. Obviously, it's not the NAM.
Not today, anyway.
I almost fell over this morning when I saw 30 inches where I live. It's, wait a minute, my snowblower won't take care of that. But you're right. It's a volatile situation, and this, I think, is a problem we, as meteorologists in the media, and Bill Goodman out there in NWS will agree, perhaps, that we brought this upon ourselves by trying to be too specific in many ways. You see Futurecast. Sorry for the editorializing. Futurecast, and the time thing goes by 15-minute increments, and someone will say, well, tomorrow at 3:15 in the afternoon. We can't do that, and people expect it now. Computers give you everything you need. You can send a probe to Mars, no one will get there within the minute, but the weather's not like that. But yet, because we say the computer forecast, people think it is. Anyway, very volatile. I don't know which way it's going. I'm just looking more at the GFS than anything else, because that seems to be the most consistent, although the Euro's a little scary too, keeping a little bit closer. But one thing's for sure, all right, guys, this is going to be one heck of a big coastal storm. This is not a little one. This is going to be a big one.
No, offshore. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, yeah.
The other Bill.
Yeah. This will be a big storm, no matter what. It's just a question. It's going to be close enough to deal us some good snow, and I don't know. The way the GFS trend is, I'm not feeling real good about it, at least from the city northwest. We have to see. We're still not in that 48 to 72 hour time frame where time and time again things shift east, and then we get into that time frame, and then they start to go back west. I wonder if we still have room for that to happen.
Well, why don't I bring up the latest? How about I bring up the latest European model? And while I'm doing that, Joe Rayo, you had a question that you wanted to ask Bill Goodman, if you recall.
Yeah, Bill, after I do my own forecasts, I always like to check to see what the others are thinking. And the other night, not last night, but Monday night. So what day is this? This is Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday. It's all melding into one big lump now. On Monday night, I noticed that Albany and Philadelphia and the National Weather Service right here in little old New York, the evening update or the evening forecast didn't come out at its usual time. Usually I expect it to come out like at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. All three of you guys, or all three offices, didn't put out the update until like 6:30 to 7 o'clock. And I'm saying to myself, what's going on over there? It must be, is something coordinated that all of you guys were just having a discussion about what might come our way at the end of the week, or was it just some kind of a technical breakdown? Would you know why that happened? Or
No, that's got to be something technical. That I know, we've been suffering with web problems on and off for at least the past year. And if something goes down, we create our forecast. Where we have everything done by 4 p.m. and it probably went out there but wasn't able to display on the web.
okay, that's all I wanted.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We were concerned. We were very concerned.
And we were always thinking of you guys, Bill. and by the way, one more super chat
Always
hit.
happy thoughts, right?
Yeah. This is not just a super chat hit, Joe. This was a super duper chat hit.
Yes,
from
I saw.
JZ Videography. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much. The very kind words. I'm glad you love the show. I'm glad that you're into weather and that you've gotten a lot from us, because we don't always stay on point, but I'm glad you're getting a good learning experience from us. So, Bill, Bill Goodman. You've been on shift this week, so you can maybe opine a little bit about what you're dealing with this in the coming into the shorter range, but give me just your thoughts on this whole setup. What the issues are, and where's your mindset with as far as this forecast is concerned. And I'm going to put I'm going to put the new European on the screen, by the way.
All right. I'm not able to see it, so we'll have to we'll have to try to be in sync as best we can. One problem that I see is a lot of the energy is still not even out of Canada yet. There's a big short wave that's going to drop down toward the Four Corners region. I think that only comes into the lower 48 tonight. You have that. That's one important part of the equation here. There's also energy that's way back up in Canada that comes into the picture. Drops through central Canada into the and I think into the eastern U.S., like into the main trough. That doesn't get here until Thursday night, Friday. These players are very late to the game, and they're all northern stream features. It's not like you have something. Not like you have some kind of bowling ball that's coming across from the Pacific Ocean, well defined, that traverses like the southern plains, moves through the deep south, and comes up the coast. This is you have all these short waves interacting. You have that weak low that's going to be east of Florida, going to sort of be the seedling at the surface, and where it sets up is really important to where the stronger storm itself ends up. Just so many different parts, and the slightest move of any of them really has a big impact on the forecast. I think the one thing I've noticed the past 24 hours is that shortwave that does drop down toward the Four Corners, it seems like more energy from that the models have been lagging with that, and that's not really getting into the mix. And I think that's a big reason why we're seeing this eastward trend, because without that, this is not easing as soon as it otherwise might.
You're talking about now. I have the earlier European up that goes from 240 hours. That goes out to 240 hours. The in between run only goes out on tropical tidbits. It only goes out 72 hours on pivotal weather. It goes out to 90 hours. So I have it on the screen. The short wave that he's talking about, folks, is from western Colorado down into Arizona. And then you've got the northern stream trough that's coming down. That short wave, yeah, it never really gets involved in any of this, or if it either that or it just looks like it almost gets absorbed, and then the cutoff low drops down. And I'm looking, I was just looking at the old run. I mean, this is the new run. This is the new 72 hour. The battle in all of this to me has been the fact that you had the European and the Canadian up until maybe yesterday dropping the trough a little bit further to the west, sharpening up and going neutral near or just west of 80 degrees west, and then lifting up, a cutoff forming at down in uh, Western Virginia, North Carolina, and then lifting up northeast and getting more vigorous as it moved northeastward, east of Atlantic City, south of Montauk, and just southeast of Cape Cod. But the recent run, the GFS was among the first to. It's been kind of all along, not really on that page. It's had a more positive tilt to it. It goes neutral and then negative when it's way too late. In other words, the upper low winds up going well to the east and going well southeast of Cape Cod. And I guess my view on this is, and Bill Korbel, you said this earlier. The GFS has been more, certainly not perfect, but it has been more consistent through all of this. And I think it's been really more consistent through the winter, through much of the winter. The European, to me, guys, and maybe you'll disagree, but I think the European has really been horribly inconsistent for a long time now. And once upon a time, we would have looked at something like this and saw what the European would be doing, and we would be immediately sort of gravitating in that direction because we knew that it had such a good hit rate. I don't think it does anymore, or at least, I don't know if it's temporary or what.
Quite frankly, Joe, and I've been saying this now for quite some time, the European has been living off of its Hurricane Sandy prediction. And that, by the way, folks, is almost 10 years ago. Ever since that Sandy prediction, everybody said, the European is king. Everybody looked for the European. And, quite frankly, over the last few years, I agree with you 100%. The European has been, at times, very inconsistent. So it's not really the king anymore. I think the king has been dethroned. So to speak.
Beheaded, maybe. Huh?
Beheaded. Yeah, exactly.
And Bill Goodman would know more than me, but I know they've upgraded the GFS quite a bit over the last couple of years, and whatever they're doing seems to be working.
Yeah, it's really not it's really not the same model anymore. I guess it's this was called the FV3, and I guess they took the physics from the old GFS model and kind of grafted it onto this FV3 model, and that's what we've been using. That's at least a year or two now.
Yeah.
Have you noticed we haven't had a parallel GFS for quite some time? So I guess the folks over at the Weather Prediction Center or NOAA are pretty happy with the current GFS, and there's no potential heir or successor waiting in the wings to replace this.
At least not right now, not that I know of.
Well, the 72-hour position, for what it's worth, is at 39, just shy of 40 and 70. It's at 39.7 and about 69.4. So we're talking, 30 miles southeast of the 40-70 benchmark. It's a 979 low. I can say, and this is going to go to another subject matter that to me has become rather sensitive, and maybe it has to you guys as well. But it actually, on this particular run, gave a little bit more precip, a little bit more on those wonderful, fantastic snow maps. Aren't you just so thrilled that you have snow maps, snow forecast maps that then show up all over creation with 35-inch snow amount stamps like it had yesterday down in Delaware? I have to tell you something. Quite honestly, I wish that obviously there's no way to get rid of them, but I really wish there were. They're misunderstood. They're completely misused. Maybe if I might have said yesterday that, okay, maybe inside 72 hours it might be okay to have them. But after what I saw some of these models do over the last couple of days, but particularly the European, with these crazy, absolutely crazy numbers in terms of snow amounts, and the problem is that everybody sees them, and everybody sees them, and it becomes
maybe we should go back to what they used to do with the Remember in the old days, Bill, Joe, and I.
Tex
had to go back.
Antoine?
No, well, not that far back.
Well,
But
I used to love watching Tex when I was a kid, man. I'd see Uncle Weatherby with the
Uncle
snow hat,
Whitby, yes.
and he'd just say, heavy snow tomorrow. Not, there'll be 8 inches in Merrick and 17 inches in, New Brunswick. No, it's just, there'll be heavy snow tomorrow. That was it. We were happy.
But what I'm talking about here is back in the day for the hurricane forecast, and those forecasts only went out for 3 days. They'd put above the forecast prog positions for intergovernmental use only.
Yeah.
And which meant like that was a no-no if you tried to put any of this on the air and actually divulge what they were thinking about. But I mean, they were telling you what to do as a forecaster. Maybe that's what they should do now with some of these models and say, for intergovernmental use only, don't put this on TV, don't show this on.
Oh, and you know that's going to stop them from putting it on. Really?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the three of us spent a lot of time in the media, and the pressure is on to be first with the forecast. And as much as you fight it, sometimes your job depends on it. Now, I give credit to Nick Gregory tonight. I watched him at 6 o'clock on 5. And he said, I'm not going to put up a snow map tonight.
Good for him.
It's just too volatile.
I don't think Lee I don't think Lee Gold, I didn't watch because I can't see. I mean, I guess I could watch online, but I saw someone mention that Lee Goldberg didn't do one either. He put what he put up.
There you go.
What he put up, and that's what I've been doing. I've been putting Joe and I and I'll put it up right now. I've been putting the WPC's short and long range probabilities up on the show, and I'll bring it up right now. We have now it's split into 2 windows here, into 2 periods. So the short range forecast period actually goes into Saturday morning, and they have a 70 to 80% chance of at least 2 running from eastern Virginia into southern New Jersey, and then a 60 to 70% chance of at least 2 north and east of there, up through central Jersey. Draw a line north of Trenton, from just north of Trenton to about Newark, New York City, and then continue that across lower Westchester, and then run it on a diagonal through Connecticut into southern, the southeastern half of Massachusetts, and then back to Long Island. And that's the probability for at least 2. Again, this is only through Saturday morning. And then on the longer range period, which is the first long range period now. So tomorrow this will be inside the 72-hour time frame. They have a 50 to 70% chance. Now they're saying a quarter of an inch of liquid equivalent of snow and sleet. Effectively, that's what's going on. That's at least 3 inches here. So we have the probability of at least 3 of 50 to 70%. Coastal New Jersey to New York City, this is the back edge, to the Connecticut, New York state line, Western Mass, the Vermont, New Hampshire state line, and then they've got 70 to 90, central Suffolk County east, actually almost into southwest Suffolk County east, 70 to 90, and into southeastern New England, and then they've got that patch of 90% plus in southeastern Mass away from the Cape. The probability in the Cape is 70 to 90, and then north and west of there, it's actually 90 or better. So we've been using that, and that's what Mr. Goldberg used. And Joe and I have our early call, our snow maps, which we'll show in a little while because we're inside 72 hours. So I think, I made an early call, Joe made his call, and we'll come back to that in a bit. But honestly, it was this time. It seems to me like every time we have a snow event, some kind of snow threat, I'm thinking, the level of hyperbole just gets higher and higher, and this time around, it's really over the top. I can't imagine how much worse it could get but this was bad. I mean, it really was bad. At Goodman, you sit in the Weather Service office. I mean, you have to, you sort of deal with this stuff when you deal with the public. I mean, what's the feeling over there, over at NWS when it comes to this sort of stuff? I mean, how do you control it?
It's hard. It's hard to control. We have a couple of folks that they'll call ceaselessly looking for looking for constant updates. It's not like we update the forecast every 15 minutes. We update it when we have new information, or if it's something in the near term, it's based on what we see on satellite radar, that, you know, observations. Longer term, it's based on model forecasts that come out every 6 to 12 hours. It's I mean, I was off today, so and the day before wasn't in the office, so I missed a lot of what's going on. It was probably crazy there today. In the early planning stages, it tends to be more at the state level and the city level. The emergency managers who are attuned, you know, the ones who are more weather savvy, start calling up and say, well, I see the models say this and that. What do you think? And they have to start making some long range plans a little bit sooner than most of us do. If they have to get plows, things just staged in place, or whatever kind of preparations that have to be made. Lucky me, I missed a lot of that this week because I haven't been in the office the last 2 days.
You're lucky.
Yeah. Here, Timothy Veltman, who's a regular watcher on this show, and a good guy, because he's always making sure that I'm on, you know, everything's working with me. Sometimes I do typos and things, and he gives me a good quick message to say, hey, you know, there's a technical error, you might want to fix it, and I darn appreciate it, because I don't always check, but he wants to know, Bill, so if they wind up, if it gets to the point where they got to put winter storm watches up, does that happen tomorrow morning? Does that happen later in the day, or in a situation like this where the models are so volatile? I know a decision has to be made one way or the other. Do you wait? I'm curious about the mindset there.
We might have to wait a little bit longer this time. If it's a slam dunk type of event, we could do it 2. Sometimes we've had it almost 3 days in advance. That there comes a point of diminishing returns if we go out too far. Everyone gets fatigued. Okay, this watch has been in effect. When's it going to snow already? So it seems like I have a feeling maybe watches would go into effect farther east for areas where we have higher confidence of 6+ inches occurring through, you know, like Friday night through Saturday, and maybe farther south into like coastal New Jersey and maybe Delmarva. That remains to be seen. I have a feeling that's not going to happen at the earliest until, let's see, daytime Thursday is still almost 48. That's still 36 to 48 hours away. So I wouldn't think anything tonight, and tomorrow might just be east, at least maybe not the city, but farther east, where, as I say, where we have greater confidence of 6+ inches falling.
By the way, I have the surface map up from Pivotal Weather of the European, and I will I'll go a little tighter because I have the full U.S. view, so you can see where the storm is on the coast, and I have the what is that, the 69 hour model there, the 69 hour time frame. So let me switch this over so we get a close-up view. And folks, this is
one thing that we did. Yeah, I was just going to say, Joe, one thing that we talked about yesterday, and maybe we can bounce this off the two bills now. I think one of the main vexing problems, and I know that Bill Goodman, for example, at the National Weather Service office, this must really drive you guys crazy when you're doing county by county forecasts. This storm could very well have a very sharp cutoff line to the north and to the west, so sharp like a knife, where literally you could have, you know, light to moderate snow falling in one spot, and 5 miles to the north or west, there's nothing. And I do believe we're going to be looking at something like this with this particular storm. I think when we look at my snow map, you'll see that I have the westernmost part of New Jersey getting only a few flurries. And then you very quickly intensify to a few inches in New York City, and then continue to maybe a foot out to the east part of Long Island. This and where are the snow bands going to set up? Certainly with a very strong, intense storm like this, there are going to be snow bands, and wherever you're in this an area that gets a snow band, you're going to again get much heavier snow than a place 5 or 10 miles away. This is the complexities. And then people yell at us when we put out a map indicating where the snow accumulations are going to be. They say, "How come you said this? And how come you said that?" Or whatever. This is not a one-dimensional thing. In many ways, it's two-dimensional. And when you include the topography, like the mountains to the north and west, it turned out to be like a three-dimensional thing here. It's almost impossible sometimes.
Getting the word out to people in a way that they understand depends upon the audience. And Bill works with, when you're working with government officials, they're looking at it in one way. They want to say, "Whoa, we can't take any chances of not getting this road covered with salt." So, we're taking the pessimistic look at thing. And then you're trying to get the word out to the average person who is listening with half their attention, and they'll hear the higher number. And then, of course, after the snow is gone or it's going, there will be people measuring the snow. And darn well that some people will stick it in, especially when it's windy, in that really heavy spot and say, "Hey, I got 15 inches. You forecast only 8. Well, so it's I don't know how you communicate to everyone. Nowadays, people just pick this thing up. And I had people say, "Oh, the rain's going to start in 12 minutes. What? Well, yeah, look, it says right here. It says, okay.
Yes, exactly. If it's on the app, and then of course, one of the two points just going back with respect to the app thing. I was actually in the middle of a conversation with this was back on one of the systems that. The one with the Arctic front that looked like we were going to get a couple of inches and it just fell apart. The cold air didn't come in fast enough. I was having a conversation the night before with a snow removal guy, and I sent them, I had sent them on Messenger and said that that the a couple of the models were trying to show a few places where the numbers were up at about 3 or 4 inches in southeast PA, and then right at that moment he pulled up his app, and his app changed his forecast from an inch to 4 inches. And I pointed out to him, I said, "That's because your app is programmed with the GFS model. Whoever's running, whoever made the app is using the GFS model. So every 6 hours you're going to have a different forecast, a different number." And my view on that is how do you plan without the human element in there to kind of massage everything out and get all the noise out? How do you make a plan?
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's a business. And then this morning and yesterday, I had and this goes back to the whole thing with the snow maps, because they're all out there. They all see them. So I have the snow removal guy. He calls me up in a panic because he saw one of the snow maps gave Philadelphia 21 inches. Well, if there's 18 inches, if he gets a snowfall of 18 inches, he's got to go out and rent out one of these front loaders, one of these gigantic front loaders. He's got to lay down $50,000, and he has to do it today. So he's asking me what I think. It's like basically you're asking me to tell you, you're making a decision here to spend $50,000 for something you may not use. I mean, I told him it was my opinion that Philadelphia was not going to get 18 inches, and that those snow maps, don't use them. Do not but I've been saying this a lot lately. Forecast shopping, okay? Forecast shopping. Which everybody does, okay? Everybody does, is hazardous to your emotional health. Do not do it, okay? Just don't do it. And yet you can't avoid it because, if you're on Ragebook or Blither and you're scrolling through your news feed, these maps are coming up one after another after another. Joe, I'm sorry, Mr. Rayo, I think there's 2 super chat hits that popped up that I can't see.
Yes. Jay-Z Videography again going to the super chat board. So I don't understand what we're doing tonight that allows us to get a double hit on super chats, but thank you so much. He does have a question. He says, is it possible that the storm may slow down, or even if it's not as close to the coast, his location is in eastern Queens, can it still dump a decent amount of snow due to its slowing if that were to happen?
And if it were
Good
to
question.
down and you had
Right.
snow bands that were pivoting like right over the city, I suppose that's possible. But I'm going to be pretty close to that western edge, as you said, Joe. And I don't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out on a limb and say that for sure. That's I think something like that might be more likely to happen farther east. Less
by-
likely to happen.
And by the
Could
way,
it cut off and slowed? It could have cut off a little quicker, so it starts to slow.
well, that's what the European was showing yesterday for a few runs. It slowed it down. It actually looped it. It slowed it down for about 6 hours when it was inside that 40 to the box, what we call the box, east of Virginia, and then on north out to 70 West, out west to 70 West, and then going north up to southern New England. When the storm was inside the box, and this is where we've been talking a lot about this whole structure with the upper low. And let me bring the map up. Let me bring a map up to illustrate
And
this.
while you bring that up, Joe, while you bring the map up, the executive producer has told me to make sure to mention David Fuller and Jason Kaplan, who was also just hit the super chat. I want to tell all you folks who are hitting super chat, if between me trying to look at some of the maps, Joe changing the maps, I don't really have a chance. Yeah, why don't you come on camera to do this?
Yeah.
Come on,
I mean,
Well, thank you.
I mean, if I didn't have it,
Thankfully, Mrs.
If none
Rayo
of you
was up
people
there
would get-
keeping everybody on, keeping us honest here.
and here's another one, Vince Robinson. I'm missing all of these because I'm keeping my eye on some of the maps here. So if it wasn't for her telling me about all these people appearing on the chat board, so thank all of you for making the contributions tonight.
And by the way, yes, absolutely, thank you. Also from my end. By the way, we do have to acknowledge the fact that there is a chance that this thing could slide out further to the east, and that cutoff line winds up being either on the
Suffolk.
coast or or to the east or possibly offshore. I mean, if the NAM was right, and when I saw the NAM today, I nearly fell off my chair laughing because of just the absurdity of having a forecast tool that tells you 1 to 2 feet, and then 6 hours later doesn't even give you 1 or 2 flakes. But going.
Well,
Hey, what do you guys think about the in-between runs? I've never been a fan. Maybe it's changed now of the
Thank you,
0,
Bill.
6, and 18
Thank
seed
you.
runs.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
Only in the very near term would I trust it. That I can think of a couple of times where the 18Z NAM was dead on. I think the snowstorm we had the day after the Super Bowl, I think we had advisories, and 18Z NAM was coming in snowier.
Yes.
And we winter storm warnings last minute.
And
So
it
has its moments, but you have to have observations that support that.
Yes.
How about the rapid refresh models when you get within 30 hours or something? I think that's a really good model.
Yeah, I think so too.
We use that a lot in aviation.
The HRRR,
Yeah.
on the other hand,
Yeah.
I have real problems with the HRRR in general. It displays in an 18-hour model view, and it'll be like you're in the 6 to 9 hour time frame. Let's just say as an example, it'll show stuff on the radar, and then suddenly you get a little closer and it's gone. And you're trying to match it up to what's on the current radar. So I find that the HRRR just a little bit
Maybe
distressing.
it's chancy.
By the way,
Like I say, as a pilot, I use that a lot, and a lot of times it does a very nice job. Maybe not beyond 6 hours, but 3-4 hours of showing, especially convection movement of things. It's really, really good. It's useful for people who are flying.
and by the way, at least with the off-hour runs, I agree with Bill. When you're inside the short range, I'd like to look at them just to see, if at the last minute, if something is already, if something is already shown to be shifting northwest, I like to see if the model's continuing that trend or if it's reversing it. There's. You have to be careful because there is a certain amount of inconsistency to it when sometimes it'll show something and then the main run will come in and go back to what it had originally. But going back to the question of stalling and a cutoff, this is what we were looking at yesterday on the European, where the trough axis was sitting just right along 80. A cutoff was forming down there in North Carolina, and you can't see the in-between run, so on the next time frame, it's up at Cape Cod. But on the in between on the in between runs, what was happening was is the upper low was moving here and the surface low was becoming almost vertical with it. There was about during a 1 6 hour time frame, the surface low actually made a little counterclockwise loop before it took off and went on up to the northeast. So and that I think is and I think that's the reason why the European was so aggressive with showing these big well, if it was showing big snow amounts, it was also showing ridiculous precip amounts. And that's why I think the model was doing what it's doing, showing those big numbers, but because of that little tiny loop that it did right off the Delaware coast, and that's where it hit those 35-inch bullseyes. And then it just, as I said, it went off to the northeast. But of course, as we noted, now here's the NAM today, just to compare it to the NAM. We'll go to the 12Z NAM, okay? And the 12Z NAM is the 18, so let me switch it to the 12. So the 12Z NAM was pretty much doing the same thing that the European did yesterday. You can see the upper low starts to form there and the trough goes negative, axis from eastern Ohio to the North Carolina coast near Wilmington, and then the upper low lifts right up and passes maybe about 70 to 90 miles offshore. And we would be northwest of the track of the upper low, which is where you want to be when it comes to heavy snow. And then it runs up to Cape Cod. But then look what happened at 18Z. And Bill Goodman, I think you're right about what you said with that thing in the Southwest being an issue here, because when we look at the 18Z, and I think this is the reason why the 18Z didn't show anything and swung everything out almost straight east, was because, first off, look at where the trough axis is almost for the same time frame. It's not even anywhere near 80. It's going neutral there in central PA, and the bottom of the trough actually swings all the way out east of 70. I mean, it goes way out. So if it does that, yeah, you know what? Not only will you not see the bands of heavy snow, but you might wind up with a big shutout if that's correct.
So, look, if your life depended upon it, which way would you go, Mr. Cioffi, Mr. Rayo?
All right, Joe Rayo, you take you take that first.
When I looked at the 12Z runs this morning and I saw what the NAM was doing, I said, this is obviously an outlier. And I said, well, maybe, just maybe, when we get to the 18Z NAM, it's going to move a little bit further out to the east, away from the coast. And then, of course, we saw that it went completely and diametrically opposite to what it said at 12Z. I don't know. I have a feeling that when we get the 0Z run of the NAM tonight, we're going to see it go right back to the west and dump lots of snow on top of us, because that's the way that's the way things are. Those intermediate runs, I agree 100% with you, Bill. I take very little credence in those intermediate runs, especially when I'm looking beyond, let's say, 24 or 36 hours, because they're crazy. The NAM especially, crazy. What would I do if I had my life to depend on it? Right now, I would simply say the trend is your friend, as our dear friend Craig Allen likes to say it a lot. I see subtle changes more and more toward the east. And, you folks out there, I know some of you were upset when you saw my snow map on Facebook. Oh, Joe Rayo, why are you doing this? It's much too low, much too low. Why are you doing none? And the funny thing is, they said that's not what the guys on TV are saying. And here we just said that the guys on TV didn't show a map at all. So who are they referencing about snow amounts? I think we'll see some snow, but I think if you want the really heavy duty stuff, you're going to have to go out east, especially east of, let's say, exit 49 and the LIE. That's where the good stuff is probably going to be with this system.
I would say this. So I think it was twice that I recall in the last 3 weeks when the the off-hour run did something squirrely. And by the way, in both directions, where it put precip in, then it took it out. I've also seen the main run put something in, and then it got taken out. But when the original, whatever, in those instances, whatever the prevailing trend was going in was the one that it reverted back to after it had the squirrely run. But I will also say that at least in this case, it does point out the squirrely run and I don't have the squirrely run. I have the other squirrely run up. I have the 12Z run of the NAM up that has had the low going well to the left and basically burying everybody. But I think that I said squirrely so many times now I sort of forgot my train of thought of where I was going. But I agree with Joe. I mean, after thinking about it, you always, whenever you see something like that, at least from a forecasting standpoint, I think both you Bills will agree and Joe will agree. You get that pit in your stomach that makes you want to just kind of change whatever you're thinking right away. And I always make sure that I walk away for a little while and try to resist that because, especially when it's something like this, because you just, it could be it's an off-hour run, it's a one-run wonder maybe, but if you look at at least from the standpoint of the GFS, it's been much more consistent in terms of its trends being a little bit more subtle. So you see these sort of subtle shifts. It's been kind of sort of inching its way further east. So that may be still in play. I left my forecast alone. I drew my early call map around midday today after I saw everything in the morning guidance package and before I saw the European. So I just drew everything then. And my tendency usually is when I see stuff like this, I just sort of I leave it alone and I wait because if you start changing things every time you see a run,
Yeah.
you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to get a forecast right, and you're never going to get anywhere. And by the way, speaking of snow maps, so let's bring those up. I'll bring up Joe Rayo's snowfall forecast map. And by the way, Joe, as a disclaimer, you know that you and I both know we don't talk to each other when we do our snow maps. So that none of us are so this way we don't get any kind of bias. And usually we come out relatively close to each other, even though we don't necessarily use the same numbers. So with that being said, this is what Mr. Rayo is going for. You will notice that there are, except for the 12 on the range for well to the east, there are no double-digit numbers. So unless you're in $1 million home in the Hamptons, you're not going to get a double-digit number. But there's Joe's 4 to 6 for Central and Western Long Island, 2 to 4 in the city. He's got the sharp cutoff line in Central New Jersey. And my initial idea was I was actually going to put it there, or I had even toyed with the idea of going a little bit further to the east. But then I thought that if I did that, I'd get a wholesale revolt from snow weenies all over the place because they're right now they're hating me. I've been getting all sorts of messages with regards to my forecasts about no dub. I said that I made reference to snow maps in one of my posts today, and I said they're not going to be any double-digit numbers inland, and that just set up a firestorm. Now, what I did was I was a little broader in my numbers because I was still struggling with how far west this gets. So I put the zero. Actually put my zero just to the northwest of the Pennsylvania-New Jersey line. And part of that is because of the fact that there's all this sort of renegade snow, which I'm not even sure is going to happen tomorrow. I'm sorry, on Friday. And I had 2 inches into northwest Jersey, 4 inches just west of the city, and then I had an 8-inch line cutting across Nassau into western Suffolk, and a 10-inch plus for the east end. So, I mean, I was a little more aggressive than Joe was, but I'm not that far more off. And I also made I made it very clear that the western cutoff was probably not going to be where I had it, that it may very well be much further to the east of that, in which case those lines would all get compressed as you go eastward. So I thought for me that was sort of the best approach in terms of the forecast. And I noticed I have 10 inches plus for southeastern New England, and then the amounts tailing off north and west of there. So I guess it's as good as any forecast. I have to say, honestly, if I had waited till late this afternoon to saw the afternoon guidance package, I probably would have put the 0 line at least where the 2-inch line was, and the 2 where the 4, and the 4 was where the 8 is. I would have moved everything over one spot, but I decided to do it this morning because at some point you have to bite the bullet and go ahead and make your forecast. You got to put your cards on the table. So I decided to do it this morning.
Yeah.
Well, I got
Joe. You mentioned. Oh, sorry, I was going to say, Joe. You mentioned the snow removal guy who needed to rent a $50,000 machine.
Yeah.
That's the thing that is very difficult unless a person like that gets a private weather service.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Well, I mean,
anybody's got that much money invested can't just call Joe Cioffi.
Right.
I mean, he can get great weather, but they need somebody watching it all the time with their eye on.
Oh
the
yeah,
thing. That's why
I told him. I said, that's a short. That's not a question that I could even answer three or 4 days in advance. And B,
right.
I said, I can't tell you whether you should or shouldn't. All I can tell you is, what the chances are, what the probability is of you getting that 18. And I just said I thought it was very low in my opinion. And he kind of understood that, so he wasn't putting me on the line or anything. But
okay.
But
if you do that, you feel about it. A friend of mine had something going on Saturday as a business. It can be affected by snow where they have to cancel some things. And I told him, it looks like it's snowing. It could be heavy. This was yesterday. I'm wondering, gee, Christmas, he's in Babylon. Maybe he canceled things he didn't have to,
But that's it's just it's weather that happens. That's the other thing. When did weather become a certainty in people's lives, like death, taxes, and the weather forecast? Now we have to add the weather forecast to the things that are certain in life. That to me.
That's why I said that earlier. Yeah, in the beginning I said the same thing. It's a forecast of an incredibly complicated system. We can't begin to understand how incredibly complicated it is. And they are just that. They're estimates of what may happen. That's all they are. And we got really good at making these estimates, though.
Bill, I jumped ship earlier than you did. But after I left News 12, I think from what I heard from not just you, but also others who were still there, that they were piling on things. They were asking you to do things that were seemingly impossible to do in such a short interval of time.
Yeah.
And, no matter how you tried to explain in a quiet, sensible manner that this was very difficult, if not impossible, especially with the uncertainties of the weather, they didn't want to hear that, did they?
No.
It reminds me when I was working at a private weather service many, many years ago, and we were doing movie companies. We actually were forecasting the weather for some of the more iconic movies that you see on cable now. I watch them some nights. I see I did that. There's a scene in Fatal Attraction, a scene where I think when
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas and the woman, the crazy lady. Who's the actress who played the crazy lady in Fatal Attraction?
Her face is right in front of me. Glenn Close. As in close to winning an Oscar, but not. But go on.
There was a scene where they spend the first night together, and in the morning, to show you that it is, quote, morning, they needed a scene of New York City, sky clear, but with a certain amount of cloud cover to make it look picturesque. And we must have had like 10 straight days of them looking for that kind of shot. And finally, there was one day where he said, "Oh, it looks like there's going to be some high cirrus," or something like that. Tomorrow's the morning, and they got the shot. And every time I see that shot, I say, "Thank God." But the thing is, I bring the movie companies up because one time, and this was during an El Nino winter, they were getting storm after storm, heavy rain after heavy rain, or whatever like that. And there was a movie that was being shot in Southern California, and they needed dry weather for at least 5 or 6 hours. And I told them, I went through the whole, I said, well, tomorrow you're not going to get it because there's a storm coming in, there's going to be heavy rain, gusty winds, and it's going to stay pretty much all through the day, and the sky's going to be overcast. And I gave him the whole explanation. There was a long pause, and the guy on the other end from the movie company said, let me just explain to you why we really need this shot tomorrow. And I said, I wanted to say to the guy, I said, oh, well, now that you explained it to me, I'm going to keep the storm offshore. I'll give you the sunshine that you want. People just, when they don't hear what they want to hear, they get very, very aggravated and very upset. And they say, why? And it's always been that way, and it will always will be that way.
Joe, you realize that shot cost them millions and millions of dollars. Millions to get that one shot. Millions of dollars to get the shot, millions of dollars in union fees, millions of dollars in overtime. Janet Dunn hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you so much, Janet. Always good to see you on the chat board. And Jason.
We also have Mike. We also have yeah. Well, there you
Sharon
go.
Stone. They mentioned Sharon Stone was in Fatal Attraction, not Glenn Close. Or maybe she was in too.
No, Glenn Close.
No, it was Glenn
She
Close.
was the wife, but Sharon Stone.
No, Sharon Stone was in that other movie.
Oh.
Where she showed her leg. I forgot what the name of the title of.
I don't want to. Mike Whitley, if you're listening, I don't mean to have you eclipsed by Sharon Stone, but thank you for your super chat, and also Jason Schaefer as well.
Right, Jason says who was my occasional producer over at Channel 11 when I worked at PIX. He says you guys have a very hard job. Thank you. As Jason does have a very hard job too because he's one of us. He's a meteorologist and he's struggling with the same things we are. Bill Goodman. So what are you struggling with now? Let's take a look at how let's bring up the GFS. And we can even look at the Canadian. I hadn't done it in a long time. There was a stretch of time back a few years ago where I was in love with the RGEM model. There was a stretch where the RGEM model, one of the Canadian models, where it worked. It was picking up on these small scale systems that we had. I forgot what winter it was, where stuff was developing, like little systems developing off the Jersey coast and off the Delaware coast, and it was one of these things that was giving Long Island 3, 4, 5 inches and not much to anybody else. And the RGEM was like one after another, just picking them off. So I was looking at the RGEM today, and the RGEM actually didn't change at all. I may have mentioned this earlier. It didn't change at all from the prior run. But the GFS today, and I have up the 18Z. Again, it's a little bit further to the east. Now, are you respecting the GFS trend? I know the GFS is not one of your favorite models. But are you respecting the GFS trend about it being a little bit further to the east? And that do you think that maybe it could go even further east, or are we going to see maybe a pivot back a little bit to the west as we get into the shorter range? What do you think?
I don't know.
Good answer.
I want to see some of this energy drop into the lower 48. Get a little bit better sampled by the Rayout network and the upper air network of weather balloon stations in the lower 48. Maybe we'll get a better handle on some of those pieces of energy. It's hard to know. I mean, it's funny. The 18Z GFS actually looked like some of the pieces, even though it trended a little bit farther east. Some of the energy was actually starting to trend back to the west. It's just so complicated. I trust it better than the European. Look at the European last week had us pegged for a big snowstorm, ended up in the Carolinas. It's what it's doing. It's way too aggressive with northern stream energy, and I think this is the case here.
Is it the fact that the wavelength of this trough is awfully long? I mean, it goes from Labrador all the way down, down almost to Cuba, and you've got this incredibly long jet that runs clear from the Arctic Ocean southeast through Canada, all the way down into the southeastern part of the United States and over Florida. I mean, is it that? As you said, with all that energy in the northern stream, is it the fact that the long wave is just, you got the trough goes so, it's pretty much attached. I mean, you could just almost draw a line from Cuba to the North Pole.
Now you're talking about when the storm really gets going. It's like, I guess there was a good coupling of the jet streaks. There was a nice one that was, nice anticyclonic jet streak to our north, and then that one rounding the base of the trough to the south. And that was also in the sweet spot for very heavy snowfall. I guess we have to watch the trends up at the the 200 millibar level. Usually we're looking at features at 500 millibars to try to figure out where things are going to line up. Probably need to look aloft and see where these jet streaks are where they're trending to see if they, where they end up in terms of still being able to provide lift for some, for snow, even if it's not 6 inches plus. That said, I think I still worry about a trend back to the west once these pieces of energy get in the lower 48 and get better sampled by our weather balloon network. I'm not going to let go of that just yet. I mean, we may not know until tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow's 12Z run will start to shed some light on some of this stuff. It's funny that Joe.
Go ahead.
Joe Ray, when you posted your forecast, I looked at it. I thought that was pretty close to what I was thinking, but I did leave more snow farther north and west. I don't want to leave anybody out of the picture, but I would have to say, talk in terms of potential. Yeah, potential for 6 inches plus is still higher Long Island and going into southern New Jersey. Not so much north and west. That's about all I could say right now.
Bill, I waffled back and forth, and I would have probably have done what you did and moved a little bit more snow back west or whatever. But I said, at this early stage of the game, it's not the final outlook or the final outcome, at least in my mind. There's still going to be crazy waffling to come over the next 36 to 40. We're going to be living in the Waffle House, I think, as far as the weather is concerned for the next couple of days. So I agree. I agree with you.
Not a bad.
One thing we haven't mentioned,
breakfast.
by the way, is
go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry.
We haven't mentioned the fact that I heard. I don't know if this is true or not. There's a falling iguana warning for parts of Florida.
Well, is
that true? Or is that a joke?
No, when it gets really cold, that was a couple of days ago when
they fall out of trees, but does the National Weather Service put out a warning?
I don't know if they do. I think I remember seeing a couple of special weather statements over the last couple of years when that happens. Some of the Florida offices have put out. I believe they did. I don't know if there's no.
Well, that can hurt. Those things weigh 4 or 5 pounds, even more. Some 10, 15. They could really hurt.
Most of them are on. Some of them are on the smallish side, though. They don't all hurt. Yeah, but that's got to be a little. How do you plow iguanas? You get the snowplow, your snowblower, and the snowplow. Just shoot them out in all directions.
They get back to it. And as soon as they warm up, they just waddle away and back up the tree.
So, Bill Korbel, what's your what's your view in terms of the forecasts? What I don't know how much you've been looking at today or over the last few days with this. What's your opinion?
Not as much as you guys probably, but with something that volatile and strong that close by, there's going to be snow. There's going to be wind. I think what you guys have are pretty good. Western New York City may not be much at all unless there's a shift to the west. But there's happened so much here on Long Island. Maybe it's easier forecasting like in Kansas City. But here, and Bill's knows this, it's too often like the previous snow was an east-west thing. Where it's snowing like crazy just south of Long Island. And, you move it north 30, 40 miles and we get snow that was predicted. And this one is like this, a little bit this way less and this way more. And it's not within the realm of forecastability yet. I think tomorrow, like Bill said, tomorrow should tell the tale. But I would think, something like 4 or 6 inches for Nassau County, a little bit less west of the city, and could still be a foot plus over the East End. That's for us. Again, different parts. That's what I'm looking at Long Island. Somebody else can talk about Cape Cod, which would get more.
By the way,
Somebody asked me about Boston and said, yeah, they'll probably get a good snow up in Boston out of this.
I got the Weather Service map, and we have viewers down in Virginia and in Maryland and Delaware, and the
Okay.
Washington D.C. office. I have the Weather Service's digital database and their forecast. So most of the Washington D.C. Baltimore areas get around 2 to 3. You head over east into Maryland toward and Delaware. They've got some 5, 6, and 7-inch numbers, not the 35 inches that the European had. Rich
Yeah.
down in Virginia, 3. I don't know how much Norfolk got got the other day, but they're forecasting another 5. So we could pile on the number of cities on the list that have had more snow than New York City and Albany, by the way. Albany's only
Mhm.
had a little over a foot for the season. Mostly 1 to maybe as much as 2 or 3 inches in eastern North Carolina, then sort of tails off as you go a little bit further to the south. Up in the Cape, I'm sorry, the map's a little unstable. The website's a little unstable here.
A question, Joe, is that a pure computer model forecast, or is that
No, this is
massaged by human
no,
beings?
no. This is the actual. If you go to digitalweather.gov, you can bring
Yeah.
up a map of all these different parameters. These are the actual digital forecasts that the Weather Service puts out. So,
What do they come from?
Bill, you can answer this one because it's your data.
Oh, well, I mean, that's the most likely forecast. That's the that's all the weather forecast offices, Sterling,
Okay.
Mount Holly, us work, and also WPC. There's a big collaborative process that goes.
Okay. You guys must have a lot
back and forth.
You guys must have a lot of discussions when there's a big storm like this, I would assume. It's not just you isolated on Long Island. You're talking to Boston, Albany, and all those places.
Yeah, exactly. And we try to play as nice with each other as we can.
Yeah.
Except the other day when the whole system went down, and then.
Oh well.
But Boston's doing definitely doing a foot plus out on the Cape. They've got some 15, 16, 17-inch numbers up. For Barnstable, they got 17. For Plymouth, they have 15. They have for Boston, they have 13. Worcester, they have 10. Springfield, 7. Yes. In Connecticut, looking at looks like 9 in Hartford, 9 in Bridgeport. On Long Island, on the digital database, they have is that islip, I guess, in the middle? I'm thinking it might be. They have 12
Yeah,
there.
it's pretty much close to it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, in my never to be humble opinion, I couldn't push the button to go double digits for to the east. I was just kind of worried about this whole eastward track situation. But again, people were mad at me that I didn't put 35. 10, 11, 12.
Excuse me, Joe.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, have you guys ever discussed the complexities involved in forecasting how much snow is going to fall someplace, all the variables that go into it? Well, it's not just the water snow ratio. It's so many other things.
Well, that's the other thing we didn't bring up.
Was ratios.
Is the puff factor. I mean, like the temperatures on Saturday morning are going to be quite cold. They'll probably be down in the low 20s. Certainly that's not 10 to 1. That would be more like what, 15 to 1?
15 to 1, maybe.
Something like that. So that goes. So, if you're playing this along the lines of forecasting how much snow, and you first go 10 to 1, you have to then perhaps increase it by a little bit to take into account that this is not going to be the spackle that fell on my driveway 2 weeks ago. This is going to be a puffy, low density, puffy, powdery snow, which will be very prone to get blown around, especially later in the day and into Saturday night, as the storm begins to rev up off the coast. So yeah, that's yet another factor you have to consider.
Absolutely, you have to know when it's going to start, when it's going to start to get heavy, when it'll ease off, and all these things go into it. So no, that's why we give wide ranges, 6 to 12. That's what you can do.
I'm going to miss when the NAM goes away. Joe Rayo and I are probably the only two people on this earth that are going to miss the foos.
Oh,
I still look at the foos.
I love.
In fact, the foos was great. The foos was great. That system we had at the very beginning of the year, where there were forecasts of 1 to 3 or 2 to 4 inches of snow for New York, and I said, how could that be? Because the foose at the lowest level of the atmosphere, the R1 level, the relative humidities were like at 65%, and then from my years of using the foose, I never found anything that came on down and was not virga unless it was like 80% or more. And I said, it's going to be dry. We're going to lose most of that snow. We may not get much, if any, snow. And sure enough, New York got nothing out of it.
Yeah.
And I said, thank God for the foose. But I'm gonna miss that foose. I'm gonna miss the NAM. I was in the let's get rid of the NAM club up until 2016, when it was the only model that was going for 20 to 30 inches of snow in New York, while the global models were saying 4 to 8 or 5 to 10 or 3 to 6. And at the last minute, all of a sudden, everything changed, and the global models joined in with the NAM and said, yeah, New York will get about 20 or 25 days. I said, it's the only month. And ever since then, it's so funny, because ever since that, people on Facebook, it'll be like 5 days in advance, and they'll ask me, what does the NAM say? Not, of course, knowing that the NAM is an 80, only goes out to 84 hours. And Bill, both of you guys, Bill Korbel and Bill Goodman, I said, it was yesterday or the day before, it would do everybody a favor, and let's have all the other models follow what the NAM does and go out no further than 84 hours.
Oh,
wouldn't that be wonderful?
yeah. Here's my perspective on this. And again, why our product is misinterpreted. You look at a 6-hour forecast, you see the details, right? Exactly what the temperatures, the winds, the pressure gradient. Go out 10 days on a GFS, and it shows the same specificity, the same detail. Right. It should be just a blurry mess at that point.
Yeah.
But we think it can be that specific that far out. Every day in the future, it should get blurry until it's like, oh, that looks like maybe rain there. That's the way it should be.
I am going to miss the foose. I'm sorry, I'm going to miss the foose, because I always like to look at those T1s and T2s and T3s and, the temperatures at the different levels and all the rest of it. I am going to miss the NAM, because my favorite part of the NAM is when the NAM does something that was really exciting. I get to send Bill Goodman a message in capital letters that says, Da NAM, D-A-N-N, Da NAM.
Like this morning.
Like this morning. And by the way, you know what time it is?
No.
The time is 8:40. Oh, Rayo, do you know what time it is? You know what it's time for?
Not Briller Jeopardy.
No, we're not doing Briller Jeopardy tonight.
Right. Okay.
You don't know what time it is? We did it. We did it last night.
Right.
He doesn't remember.
Right around 9, after 9. We did it after 9 o'clock, but they usually come out around 8:45, 9 o'clock.
Oh, plumes.
Le plume.
The plumes.
Le plume de la Brioschi. Bill Goodman.
You see, Bill Korbel, you were so right. You were so right. We have far too many things to look at. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely.
I miss the LFM and the old barotropic.
Oh, go everybody.
You had one thing to make a decision on. You made the decision, right or wrong. You lived with it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, did you see the plumes though? They were in two camps. The ARWs had everything to the south.
Well,
the NMM members were just as NAM with the heavy snow.
Well, I was just going to ask you about this, because since this morning on the plumes, they're only I have all the boxes checked on the site. I have all the boxes checked for all the members, and there's 26 of them, something like that. There's the MBs and the ARs, whatever they are. But I have all of them checked.
What is this? I've been retired for 3 years. What the heck are you talking about?
Oh God, you're behind. You're behind the curve. You're way behind.
We're talking about the SREP, the Short Range Ensemble Forecast, and I guess there are plumes that show that different accumulations that the different members of the model are producing.
So you can pick the one you like best, the one that's steepest, or
Well, if you want, for example, on Bill, what I noticed is that since this morning, they're only plotting half of them. I only have half of them on the plot. So just so you know, one member of the plumes, the MBN, okay, the MBN, 42.78 inches.
Whoa, man.
It's giving islip 42.78 inches. So I'm going to take the MBN 5 out.
Measuring a drift.
Yeah, right. I'm going to take the MBN 5 out of it so it recalculates the mean. So now the highest one becomes the MBCN. MBC 28.54. So let's take that one out. MB, where are you? Because they were,
You see where they're clustered. Looks like they clustered down the bottom.
Yeah, the mean is still 5 inches. I want to take out that 20. I'm taking out some of these ones on the top are ridiculous. I mean, 24.4, 22.32, 19.59, 12.18. Okay, I guess we could leave that one in. And then the rest of them, there's 4 of them that are all under 1.25 inches, just so you know. So that the mean is actually for islip was around 5 inches. The SREF for the few times that I've looked at it and used it this winter has been god awful. I mean, it really has. The storm that went up, the storm that went up to our west a couple of weeks ago. Let me get rid of the plumes because I actually.
Why are we looking at something that's useless?
Well, because I wanted Joe Rayo to say Le Plume de la Brioski.
Le Plume de Brioski. Yes.
Little honeymoon reference in there. I hear that.
You know what this reminds me of? A weather version of a sports talk show.
And what's wrong with that?
I see all the comments people are making. Is Brady going to retire? Who knows? That's what this is. It's a sports show talking about weather.
And
this would be this.
And that's a good
this
thing.
Is what they should. This is what this is what they should be doing on the Weather Channel instead of showing me documentaries about a tornado that hit Utah 5 years ago. Yeah. I mean, this is what they should be showing. A discussion, a panel discussion. They do that on the Major League, on the MLB network. They have a bunch of guys discussing whatever.
Eli and his brother do that parallel to the Monday Night Football. It's great. They're just talking like this.
Right. That's what they should be doing on the Weather Channel. Joe, if anybody out there is interested, Joe and I are for hire.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know about you,
Joe. By the way, on the Plumes White Plains, the MBP3 model is giving White Plains 29.16 inches of snow. So there you go. It's not just islip.
Well, I just also would like you to know that it's 8:50 Eastern time, and the new NAM has started. But I don't think we're going to extend the show to live stream the NAM. But it'll be interesting to see what it does.
When does this end, by the way?
Well, you see, Bill, this is the thing. You don't seem to get this part of it, so I will explain this to you. There's no producer to scream in your ear to rap. Okay,
that's nice.
Which is
nice.
Welcoming, yeah. Right. There's no, you could talk as long as right. You could talk as long as you want. You could talk about whatever you'd like. There's no set time limit. We just go on and we did 2 hours last night. But
I'm gonna fall asleep, guys.
But that switches. I have to. I mean, I've said Joe and I've had conversations about this, and over the last couple of years, and I have to say, at least from my standpoint, the fact that I can sit here and do be a part of a show that pretty much can do just do what we want in the subject of weather is so freeing. I mean, we do things that nobody else does, and no one can tell us not to do them. I've had people say to me, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. My response is, you know what? Get your own show and don't do it. This is what we do. And the fact that, I mean, I can't think that I ever would have envisioned the world 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. Yes, because that's when I kind of started doing this, and it sort of evolved, and brought Joe in Rayo to do this program. But I mean, from the standpoint of television and TV weather, you could have it. I want. Not that anybody's going to come knocking on our doors, but I want ever since I got done when FiOS shut down, my plan was always to just kind of leave, and I was thankful in a big way, because I was afraid to do it. You work for somebody all your life, you work for a company,
Yeah.
you're getting a paycheck, and now you're suddenly deciding that you want to go on your own is a very daunting thing. And so when FiOS shut down, it was the push I needed to just go out on my own, which was something that I really wanted to do for a long time. And I have to tell you, it's the most freeing thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. It does have its problems. It does have its issues. You do have the usual. You have BS you got to deal with, like everybody else has to deal with BS. But at the end of the day, it's I got no boss. We go on the fly, and it's a lot of fun. It just is a lot of fun.
And if I could just add something, Joe and I have been in this business now for combined radio and television like 80 years, and we have a lot of experience, and we've seen a lot of things happen. And I went knocking on every door in the New York area. I even went up to Albany. I went to West Hartford. I mean, I've knocked everywhere, and I had a big, thick portfolio filled with Emmy nominations and citations and various other awards. You would think that would at least have gotten me an interview. No, the only thing that they saw, I'm sure, is when I graduated from college, and I graduated during Jimmy Carter's administration. And they said, that's not going to work. Not somebody that old, too much experience or whatever. And they'd much rather have somebody a lot younger. Now, Joe and I, we were very young at one time too, but I mean, I cannot believe that they would prefer youth. Well, I know what's the situation.
Cheaper too, Joe. They make less money.
Cheaper too. Although, Bill, I got to tell you also, I said I offered myself on more than one station as the fifth wheel, just to make myself relevant and get on television, to appear every once in a while. Still zero. So you know what? I'm having a lot of fun with Joe. When I came to FiOS, Joe said, we're going to have a blast. And Joe, you were absolutely right. You and I been doing this now for a long time. And I look forward to these evenings of doing this kind of stuff and seeing this tremendous group that we had tonight. And yes, being able to talk about what we care to talk about, and not having somebody in our earpiece saying, "Rap it." They used to call that. They call me, my nickname at News 12 was Rapid Rayo. Rapid Rayo, get off. It's time to go. Or you get on the set and they pull you aside and say, "Joe, you got to give us only a minute and 15 because we're very heavy tonight, Joe." Which meant the show was heavy with all kinds of craziness, and they wanted to shove weather off to one side.
And you know something?
So the heck with them.
And you know something? My attitude was, because occasionally they would ask me to cut my time, and and oftentimes, I don't know why, because I always thought I was probably one of the more pleasant people to work with, unless Joe Rayo will tell you otherwise. But they would sort of come up to me and like, "Joe, we've got to take like 15 seconds or cut you down by 30 seconds." And, I only had like a minute 30 or a minute. And I would respond, my answer back, it became the standard answer back. My paycheck, the decimal point in my paycheck is in the exact same spot, whether you give me 3 minutes or 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't care. I stopped caring about that stuff.
Come
on, Renata. Get over there.
Renata, come over. You see this? I've been getting these little pieces of paper from.
There she is.
This is a.
Now you're blocking her. There you go.
Starting to thank themselves.
Right. This is
all right.
No, this is a. This.
Wait a minute.
Wait.
Janet,
This just in. Go ahead.
Yeah. Janet Dunn. Thank you. Ruthless Goat. Leon Probitsky. Mark. Boratelli or Borolette, Jacob Mac Mindfulness, John Straley, and Tonya Jersey? Anyway, you know who you are. Thank you for hitting Super Chat.
And
She's coming in every 5 seconds, and she's saying, you gotta recognize these people.
Right.
You gotta tell these people.
And add Brandon Doherty. Brandon Doherty hitting Super Chat tonight, hitting the tip jar.
How about that?
All right, so Bill Goodman.
Well, you know what? You can see you guys have a lot of fun. I just want to tell you, I
We
can see
do.
you guys have a lot of fun.
And
and
usually for you got the cheese platter we sent you, of course. And
well,
no, didn't come. Bill Goodman, did you get the cheese platter or no?
And I got
No,
a
it didn't.
bag of popcorn.
Well,
That's
you know
I
what? Don't stay up late for it. It may get there eventually. Normally we
if we get this forecast, if he gets the forecast wrong, he's going to cut the cheese. That's
yes. Normally, of course, we out of courtesy, because I've known the both of you for so many years, I waive the exorbitant appearance fee that we charge people to come on this program.
We do it too. We're happy to do it for nothing.
And
this time.
The hair person was going to come and said, nah, it looked at pictures of the both of you. Said, not required. Rayo has all the hair and winds up running the highest bill. So, but as always, we love having you both here. You are our inaugural first 4-box. Now, by the way, It would have been a 5-box tonight had Tony Gigi not had to work. So we were going to have Tony Gigi on, retired National Weather Service forecaster from Mount Hale, New Jersey, but he had to work tonight. But Tony will be on tomorrow night, so we'll be back to a 3-box. But my dream is I want to get a 6-box.
Oh, jeez.
I want to get actually it'd be nice if I could get a 9-box. Then I could get my picture. I have a picture of Alice here in the software that I use to broadcast, and I could bring I could bring Alice on out, but she waits in the wings. And of course,
it's not Alice.
You'd have to mute everybody. Everybody be talking. I just want to say one thing. You, me, Joe Cioffi, Joe Rayo, myself, maybe even Bill Goodman, we're very lucky that we got into this business at just the right time.
Oh yeah, because it's dead.
For young kids, young people want to get into weather for TV, especially, which is where we cut our teeth. It's a different ball game. But there's the National Weather Service, great. There's the United States Air Force, where I started. There are places to go if you're a meteorologist, where you can do some great work. So go at it. TV, it was fun while it lasted.
No,
Tom Grant was urging me. He said, in that wonderful nasal voice, he said, well, you might want to consider going to the National Weather Service. You could start off as a GS5, and then gradually, as you move along, but broadcasting and television kind of lured me away from that. But I always had the highest regard for what you guys over at the National Weather Service do, Bill, and especially,
thank you.
Especially, I read this last week. In fact, the infamous dictum from Tom after the newspapers, the mainstream media, was accusing the National Weather Service of inaccurate forecasting. And he said, the National Weather Service, the People's Service, we come in all kinds of weather and every blah, 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 blah. And it's true. It's true. One of the things that I do not miss, and I know you don't miss either, Bill, or you, Joe, is having to come in during a major storm or in advance of a major storm.
Yeah, but Bill Goodman, Bill Goodman has to go in. He has to drive in.
Oh yeah. They got that. My weekend off is already shot. They have me coming in Saturday morning. I probably if I want to beat the snow, what, I have to get there at 4 a.m. or something like that? That's not going to happen.
They're sending a
car there in 3-4 inches of snow.
They're sending a car for you, of course.
No, I wish.
By the way, here she is. Mrs. Bundy, she decided to drop in along with Tippi Hedren. Now she can go back out. They're looking for the birds. So we like, as I said, we love having both of you on anytime. Bill, you just you feel up to wanting to come on. Bill Goodman, you always have a standing invitation. You and I talk on most days. So I really appreciate it. And by the way, my sentiments exactly. Thank the Weather Service. Um, you guys do a phenomenal. I think we do a phenomenal job. I really do, and we couldn't do what we're doing without you guys. So and gals.
Thank you. And I'll tell you, to echo what Bill said, I think I got in at the right time, just when all the when all the modernization took place. Now it's like going to an entirely different level in terms of the things that we're doing for probabilistic information, and that's a tough one. That's hard to latch onto this far into my career, but I got to lead the way. That's the way it goes.
There is a problem. Every once in a while, everybody doesn't play nice in the sandbox on the chat board, and I'm noticing it. So I'm just gonna say just to knock it off and just leave it. Politics do not belong on this show. So so if you're discussing that sort of stuff, it needs to stop. And you need to respect the other person that is on the chat board. Okay, so I think I'm trying to refer to the right person here. I believe her name is Anne. If you have a problem with someone on the chat board, then you need to leave. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Okay, so just letting you know. So every once in a while, Daddy has to go into the sandbox and go into the playground and separate and make sure everything is okay. And I just did. So sorry about that. Anyhow.
So Joe, I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that we are likely to have a Friday show, which we do not normally do, and we still haven't yet figured out what time on Saturday we would be coming on, which we don't normally do, but obviously the impending weather seems to dictate that we do something on Saturday as well.
Yeah, assuming that it doesn't go out to sea. And by the way, I have to tell you, just sort of the law of unintended consequences. I have had so many people, I have had so many people of the ones that are in love with the 35-inch snow maps complain about my forecast. There's actually been blowback from other people saying that the hyping is out of control and all the rest of it, and that at least the forecast that the stuff that I'm putting up on my website and on my videos is a refreshing sense of normalcy, that even if it does wind up coming in under forecast, or even if it does wind up under going out to sea, I think the fact that so much attention is brought to these to these people putting up all those snow maps with all those big numbers, that I got my prediction is that there might not be as much blowback as you think. They'll blame us anyway and throw us under the bus, but it's just my theory. I'm thinking they may that they and there shouldn't be any blowback, at least from the standpoint of what's going on, because what we're doing is justified, but what we're doing is reasonable. What we're doing is based on what's real, not what's the fantasy maps that are up there.
Yeah, what bothers me is that when they show you a map like 5 days in advance, it shows 15, 20, 30 inches. And then they say, reminder, this is not a forecast. This is just, well, if it's not a forecast, why are you putting it up to begin with? Come on.
Who are these people that are putting it up?
Oh, they're all over the They'll
Well,
all
that's the
over.
I
problem with
saw.
the internet.
I didn't get an answer from that. Somebody put up a screenshot of someone on television that put up the European snow off the I think the 12Z run, or maybe it was the NAM off the 12Z run, and they put up the Cucchiera snow map, which has got the snow ratios in it, and I think it gave like islip 38 inches,
Yeah,
and it had all these double-digit numbers in the 30s in southern Connecticut and over Long Island. I don't know who it was. I don't know what station it was, but they put up the screenshot of the person. Now I know what the guy was doing. He probably said this is what the model is spitting out, and he kind of tried to use that as a disclaimer. But that's not what people see. People don't even hear what you're saying. They're not going to hear that you just said, "Oh, that's a model. That's not a forecast." They see the number. The number stays with them, and that's what they remember. And that is
right.
what the problem is. The person communicating it could communicate all they want. The message is not going to get across as long as unless they're not looking at the screen. And if they're looking at the screen, they see the double-digit number. That's what they walk away with.
Yeah, you're right. I happen to have the 12Z NAM, 36.9 inches over the middle of Long Island. 36.9.
Now, who in their right mind is good? I mean, really, I would never do that. I would never do that.
Silence.
I don't get it.
Well, maybe if my news director came to me and said, "Look, you want a paycheck? Show this map."
I don't know. Things have changed so much that I wonder if I'm still working where I used to work, would I want to work there? Would I have the gumption if I needed the money to say I can't do it this way? I don't know.
Oh well.
Probably not.
Nope.
I once did
Swallow your pride and do it.
I once did a radio station in Morningside, Maryland. They were in Morningside, Maryland, but they considered themselves to be a Washington, D.C. radio station. And they were running the Budweiser $500,000 Ramblin' Raft Race, which was going to be held on a Saturday. Well, it turns out that on that Saturday, it was going to be heavy rain. And I said, well, I don't know what you people in the forecast. They said, mention this in the forecast. Mention the raft race. And I mentioned it, and I said, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what you people are going to do with the forecast of heavy rain for the general manager went bazonkers. He said, I want you to redo that forecast, and I want you to say it's going to be wonderful for that particular day. I don't want you to mention anything. And I said, I can't do that. What about my reputation? What about my credibility? And he said, blank your credibility. This is radio. This is the honest to God truth. And wow. I refused to do it. They got somebody else to do it. And come Monday, we found a registered letter in our mailbox saying that they had canceled the contract with us. That we no longer were going to be doing the guys in sales. We had one guy in sales. His name was Jeff, and he got all upset about that. But my boss at the Weather Service, his name was Todd. He said, "Don't worry about it. I understand. I knew I would have done the same thing or whatever like that." But that shows you sometimes what happens in television and radio, that they tell you to say something that is absolutely off the wall, or else you're gone. And sadly, I think there are a lot more people who actually say it rather than just say I can't say it. So.
By the way, the NAM is.
It's out to 32 hours, Joe.
Yeah, yes, we are hanging around.
I have it out to 36 hours. Because I have I'm looking at it on Pivotal, and Friday morning there's a little patch of snow over Connecticut and Long Island and northeastern New Jersey, just a tiny little patch, I guess, with that dying Arctic front. So, all right, one last prediction before we go, because we're not going to stay for the rest of the show just to find out. We'll just have to find out on our own. Bill Goodman, does the NAM flip back?
I don't know about this run. Maybe tomorrow. I'm more worried about the global models flipping back. The NAM's going to do what the NAM does. It's in the Waffle House.
Okay, fair enough. Bill Korbel.
Yeah, I think it'll go back a little bit, but just put this in perspective. Whatever falls, It'll melt
Thank you.
eventually.
I've said this. I said the same thing in my in the headline of my post today. Do you know that somebody yelled at me about saying that the
Really?
snow would melt? Yes. Somebody wrote back. Somebody
And it might
wrote
melt
back.
next week.
Somebody wrote back. How dare you say the snow is going to melt because the people that love snow just want to want to see snow, and why won't you let them have their moment? That's what he told me. This is how sick it is out there on Ragebook and on Blither. Joe Rayo, does it come
Liver.
back? Blither, yes.
Yes,
They blather on
yes, I think it
Blither.
will. I think it will come back. I think maybe not as much as it did on the 12Z run, but I think it will come back and show a decent amount of snow, and all the snow lovers out there will say, "Look, look, the NAM, it's recovered, it's coming back." and,
Yes.
and meanwhile the GFS and the European, not a tremendous difference from the 12Z run, but I think they'll continue to show ever so slightly a little bit more of a push out to the east. So
Okay. And me
take
being
it for what it is.
me being one who probably wants to see as much wailing and gnashing of teeth as possible, I will say that we will have one more round of one or possibly two runs where everybody's going to look at this and say we're going to get hammered, and then the models will come in and take it all away.
Oh boy.
Hey, Bill Goodman, real.
That's as far out as the limit as 42.78 inches from my house from that crazy SREF.
Oh, yeah, exactly. By the way, because I just thought of this, so let's just go a couple more minutes. The long range. I've been watching that 10 the 10 particularly watching the 10 millibar with the polar vortex. It seems like it wants to drop back into the position that it's been in for most of the month of January, in about 10 days to 2 weeks. And I was wondering whether you've been looking down the road. I mean, it does look, this pattern is going to break down for a little while, but it doesn't look to me like we're necessarily going to be going into some sort of, month-long blowtorch type pattern. It just looks more like a progressive west to east type, stuff shoots out from the Pacific. But I'm looking down the road. I was looking at how the polar vortex actually migrates on today's run, winds up dropping down eventually after it pulls up for a short period of time. It rotates completely around, and it starts to drop back up into northeastern Canada with a trough that's starting to set back up into the east. So I don't know if you took a look, if you've been because I know sometimes you like to look at the long range.
I have not. My focus has been completely on the short range. With this storm, and then I worked a bunch of aviation shifts. And yes, Bill, I actually did use the RAP model for my ceiling forecast a couple nights ago. It's very good.
Oh, good. Okay. We depend upon you. You know that, whether you have the file IFR and whether you can shoot the approach, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, you saw me taking a drink. This was not wine. This was blueberry juice mixed with water.
Sure.
Because I have I'm 100% recovered from my 2 months of being sick and being in and out of the hospital a couple of times. So blueberry juice and cranberry juice do a lot to fix your intestines and your stomach. So I recommend it highly. And also sauerkraut, by the way. So anyway, on that lovely little note, it's time to say goodnight to the two Bills. As I said, both of you welcome anytime. Thanks again for taking your time out of your busy schedules to come on the show. Thank you everybody, for those of you who hit the super chat the tip jar tonight. Joe and I most appreciate it very much. We get to go out to dinner, each of us. And also 354 likes. I think I did see us go over 700 at one point today with the number of viewers at one time, which is great. So we've already had probably 3,000 views or more of this video. And if you're new to the YouTube channel and you enjoyed the show, you can hit the like button. You can subscribe with your Gmail account. And Joe and I will be back tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. And one more thing that I have to do here, and that is, where is it?
What, commercial?
Well, yeah, because the folks at OmniTrueValue.com and OmniTrueValue Hardware
Hmm.
at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. Well, they might have folks needing to go there for salt, sand, Pelledo, mag, ice pellets and flakes, calcium
Shovel.
de-icer. Also, if they need a new snowblower or two, or perhaps some spreaders or some shovels, or rock salt. And they've got the lowest prices anywhere in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. And the website is...
OmniTrueValue.com. I've got to get a reverb on this to do this.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Joe and I, of course, enjoyed ourselves. I hope you enjoyed. No, you guys enjoyed yourself. You better have enjoyed yourself.
Mhm.
And
We did. It was fun.
Yeah.
we'll see you both again real soon. See you guys tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.